You know, they're selling y'all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I back. Trust me, I back.
But I'm not impressed by your performance.
You'll do nothing. You'll do nothing. Shut your fucking mouth, you'll do nothing. You'll do fucking nothing. Not one of you will do nothing.
I'll tell you what, bro. You know, I was out there, I was fighting all the hitters, bro. You ain't fought no hitters.
Come on, guys. It's normal.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I would kill you.
John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really?
No, don't be scared, homie.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the fuck he wants.
I'm gonna beat you into the living death. I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, you know, people like that get slapped.
That's fucking illegal.
Nick Diaz, you just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, this is a simulated death match. And you haven't simulated anybody's death yet.
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
What is the game plan going in against him?
The game plan is you go in there, hit him with some good shit, don't get hit, and come home with a pocket full of cash.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
I'm gonna go home tonight. I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Do you want to be a fighter? That is my question.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up? What is up, MCR family? I know it's been a few days. I know. I do deeply apologize about that. But, you know, fortunately, it was all for good reason. Because now you can call in 323-870-4051.
I want smoke.
Get hyped. It's here. So, yes, call in. Unfortunately, I know for all of our listeners in the UK, this is not a Skype line yet. That is still in the works. Hopefully, maybe within the next week or two, we can get that done as well. So, remember, call in that number, 323-870-4051, so you can get in the second half of the show and talk about, obviously, all the news we have today. And, obviously, we've been gone for a few days, so it's a lot of news. So hit that like button, subscribe, share the show. I am Matt the Hipster Hunter. Hipsters here, haters beware. And it should be a fun show. We have everything from, obviously, AJ, Wilder, Tyson Fury, Brazil, that whole conglomerate, and what else we might get into. So definitely cannot wait for what we have in store for us. But it should be a good one. So let's get right into it because just a lot to get into. Quickly, though, before I do, shout out to everyone in the chat. Jonathan Fitch, the Boxing Idiot, Johnny, Rabisky, Bayside Boxing, Fat Apples. I think I said Jonathan Fitch already. Yes, I did. Dwayne, Rob, a.k.a. Rob the Hearn, a.k.a. TBV's UK host. Go check him out. We're going to be talking about some of TBV's interviews later. The ones with Eddie Hearn. Great stuff over there. The Boxing Idiot, Ellie, Sleep with One Eye Open, and everyone else in the chat. I hope everyone's having a great day. Remember, call in. It's here. If you're domestic, it's completely free, obviously. 323-870-4051. I hope I can remember it and memorize it by the end of the show because it took me 8 hours to even get callers on, so that should be fun. But yes, we're going to get right into it. As I said, Benjamin Franklin saying, make Skype line Matt. I will, eventually. Remember, patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio to help support the show and get all the equipment, all the necessary stuff we need for that. But let's get right into it, as I said. And it's going to be one of those where I was confused about where to start this podcast, where to start this show, because we missed a lot. We missed a few days of news and information, and some of it seems a little bit outdated, but I'm going to try to do it as chronologically speaking as possible that we can. And obviously, boxing in the first part, MMA in the second part, and obviously callers in the third part now. So remember, if you want to get in the queue, call in 323-870-4051. But let's get right into the shit. Because Lennox Lewis, man, God bless him. And Robisky, I know, saying Matt fights on Facebook Saturday. Yes. We might do a live fight chat for that. But come on. But anyways, digressing. Lennox Lewis, basically just having a lot of words for AJ about how he needs to tell Eddie Hearn, etc., that to make the fight, that Wilder's told him everything that he needs to know, and therefore it's on AJ to force the fight to be made. I'll be Rob with the sniper shot from the live chat saying Lewis equals Canadian. Damn, that's harsh. Look, I'm not even gonna read the quotes because it is what it is. It's an outsider's perspective on the matter. It's just interesting. It's just in terms of the PR battle. Who is winning, who is dictating what the public is thinking. Having a guy like Lennox Lewis not be on your side, he's in theory a UK champion, talking not necessarily poorly, but kind of poorly about the UK champion here. Just from an optics standpoint, from a PR standpoint, this is not good for AJ and Eddie Hearn. And they're going to have to sort of figure out how to get around this, because I think there's a significant portion, and maybe a majority of the portion of the boxing fans out there that are against AJ right now. And I know the very loud minority in the UK is being heard everywhere, but I think it's still a minority here, to be honest. I could be wrong, but just in terms of pure metrics, everything I see, there is still just more fans overall in the U.S., and I think there's just more people overall that are against Eddie Hearn in this instance. A lot of you making points about Lewis and etc., and whether he's a UK champion. He is. I mean, come on. He is. Let's be real. But moving on slightly to more AJ, more Wilder, sort of dealing with this whole saga, this whole drama shit. Get all the heavyweight news out of here. But Wilder saying that Joshua won't fight me April 13th. And this is where a dramatic reading will be had by me. Yes, my favorites. Yes. Get hyped. Let's get to the quotes. Dramatic music. Yes. Deontay Wilder saying, you ain't got to worry about that April date because that ain't going to happen. These guys don't want to fight me. We knew the April fight wasn't going to happen when Eddie Hearn sent the contract and Joshua came out here advertising, putting out to his fans that he signed the damn contract. And when we get the contract, Eddie Hearn's name is on it. I said, look at this shit. They don't want to fight. They don't want to fight. And I'm so happy this is over. So they can move on. They can go about their business. He'll get found out. He'll get knocked out sooner or later. If it ain't by me, it would be by someone else. So hey, we wish him nothing but blessings, nothing but prosperity in his career, man. Try to grow some balls to fight me. Oh, and it gets better. It gets so much better. I'm done with Joshua. I'm done. He disgusted everyone. He disgusted me. He should be embarrassed and he should be disgusted by himself for being a champion, conducting himself this way. No champion acts that way. No champion talks like they're not ready as a champion. There's no such thing as not being ready when you have all these hungry lions out here ready to eat. Forget trying to trick people out of their money. Trying to scam them into ticket sales and make it seem like it's more than what it is. Because those things come back to haunt you. You can't keep lying and lying and lying. I love the fact that... Hold on. Just pause the dramatic music. I love how he has done he's repeated phrases 3 times in this entire article. That's hilarious, just being honest. But digressing back to the dramatic music. Where was I at? There we go. You can't keep lying and lying and lying and it don't come back. Think about lies, you have to keep it fresh. What? Sorry. You have to keep it fresh. Sorry. Hold on, let me. Fat Apples is not soft porn music, Rob. You love this. You love this dramatic music. Let me get back into character. You have to keep refreshing it, even without remembering what you said in the last interview. You want to talk so much and just lie. And other people have realized that. We're showing him how you were supposed to do it. If Fury wins, I'll get in the ring and we promote the fight. We're officially announced and we'll go from there. I respect all fighters, so I can't call him any type of name. And then I was just like, okay, Wilder. There we go. It was awesome. So, there's some more quotes there, but that is just hilarious. I mean, what do you... I think the idea of closing off negotiations for April 13th makes 0 sense. And this is just like the idea that if you don't accept the offer, we're gone. We're not going to take the fight. Like, it's... I just don't like that. I feel like it's not conducive to a proper negotiation of this fight. For every claim I think Wilder has against Eddie, I think Eddie has some of them against Wilder. Maybe not all of them, but obviously similar ones. There has been contradictions on both sides. You know, it's just one of those things where you can't come out and say they don't want the fight and say, well, I'm closing off negotiations. You can go do your own thing. You're the one that's therefore no longer accepting the negotiations at that point. And I think the idea of still closing down this idea, MB saying, hold on very quickly, saying, Matt, you break down. No, I will later. Because I know some of you guys want me to break that down. But digressing, I think that it's just, you know, not to play the both sides narrative, but it's kind of that point here where I'm over it. I'm over this shit. Because honestly, it's just aggravating at this point. Like, don't tell me that they don't want the fight when you're also saying that I don't want, like, we're no longer negotiating for that date. You know, it's just unfortunate. But let's digress to some unfortunate news with Wilder. I think the first part came out, I think, on like Tuesday, and before or after, and that's the whole if Wilder saying if I fight Brazil, I want his son to look into the eyes of the man who will cripple his dad. And that's just, it's like the whole thing about putting out the idea of killing someone in the ring. Like, there's just no excuse for that. There just really isn't. There is a line in shit talking, and that is crossing the line. And I think Wilder, being a parent of a child with some handicaps, I think should be a little bit more understanding of how this was not the right thing to say. Clearly. And I hope he apologizes for it, to be honest, because that's just gross, to be honest. It really is. In a sport where we have people like Pritchard Colon and etc., Daniel Franco, right? Daniel Twitch. Yeah, Daniel Franco. You know, you can't be saying this shit. You just can't. And I think if you want to be that big transcendental star, you want to model Muhammad Ali, you can't be saying this. You just can't, to be quite honest. And then that led into Dominic Brazil. God, saying, I mean, he's right in clapping back, but we're going to get into it. And
Lord, I ask for your forgiveness. What I'm about to say should have never came out of my mouth. Wilder, you ain't shit. For one man to talk about another man's son and to talk about crippling a man in the ring, you ain't nothing, man. You got the heavyweight championship. That's about it. Outside of that, 2 wives, 3 girlfriends, 3 kids you know about, a disabled child, kids on the side. Your life is all fucked up. You want to come at me with some bullshit? Be a man. Step up. Get the paperwork done. Send the contract over. You and I, we can square this off in the ring, and you'll lose the only thing you've ever had good in your life. Send it over. My revenge is coming.
And even like that shit, I feel like it's just, I hate when Look, there's times where obviously like shit talking crosses a line, and it works in some ways. Like Ali Frazier, I think, is the best sort of example of that, where obviously that crossed several lines. But in retrospect, I think that obviously led to this heightened event. I think we sort of looked past that. And to address quickly, I forget who said it in the chat. I think it was the Boxing Idiot who said, Tyson said far worse. Tyson has said far worse. But we say that. We know that Tyson's a awful human being, probably. Like, not probably. I mean, he says it. He's sexist. He's xenophobic. Like, we know that shit. With Wilder, I think he obviously does, I think, a lot of good. Like, what he has done for promoting people like Colin Kaepernick and sort of those social issues and social injustices and furthering that movement. I think he is awesome in that. I think he's done a great job. You know, but then you have this, and then you have like the instances of him saying, "I want to take a body." I remember asking him questions about this when I was in camp with them and discussing this, and you know, and the contradiction of when he says about speaking it, believing it, you know, putting it out in the universe, and then it's going to happen. And then on the back of that, on the heels of saying that, then putting out into the universe, speaking it, believing it, that he's going to kill someone in the ring. It's just it's indefensible, to be quite honest. And again, Wilder, I'm a huge fan of you. I consider you a friend of the show, but these are just indefensible things to say. And I think this whole entire shit with you in Brazil has been not only disgusting, to use a word that you use about Joshua, this has been truly disgusting, but this has also been kind of corny, to be quite honest. Like, this is not how you guys should be talking. So, it is what it is. But keeping it on heavyweights and moving it a little bit past all this sort of crossing the line drama, let's get to some network drama. Because Joshua on leaving Showtime for DAZN. Business is not about loyalty. Ooh. Damn. Wow. Rampage fans saying, come on, Matt, this is boxing. And look, let's all be honest. Like, we have like Tyson Fury, not Tyson Fury, Mike Tyson. We have, you know, convicted rapists. We have, you know, let me go back to my screen very quickly before we actually address Showtime, DAZN, all that. We have all these instances, of course. You have Jake LaMotta, who's a wife beater. We have Floyd Mayweather, who's a wife beater. We have all these instances. We know that. We know a lot of scum of the earth are in boxing, and just in life. There's scum everywhere. We know that. But to just throw our hands up and be like, oh, well, it's boxing. We know we have people like this that think this way. Therefore, let's not talk about it. Therefore, let's not address it. No. You know, and that's why I think I sort of said, like, Wilder, I'm still a fan. Like, what he is saying here is indefensible. But you can still be a fan of Wilder. Same with Fury. Like, I can still be a fan of him in the ring. I can not agree with him on probably anything politically, socially, morally. But in the ring, he's fun. In cutting a promo, he's fun. I admit that. Mayweather, one of, if not he is the best in the last 30 years, probably. I would argue that all the time. But he's a convicted domestic violence abuser. Just because, you know, that's, how should I phrase it? It's just because there's a plethora of these instances in these combat sports industries and just the communities, doesn't mean we shouldn't address it in some capacity. And it doesn't mean we can't also separate the sports from the person. I think we can do that. We've done it already. We've done it with Floyd. 4.4, 4.6 million pay-per-view buys back-to-back. Not back-to-back. Yeah, there's the Birdo fight in between. That's right. But we can still talk about how he is a despicable human being. Greatest boxer in the last 30 years, but still a despicable human fucking being. And I think to lose sight on how there is that duality there and that how they're not mutually exclusive, I think is very important for us as a community and as fans, just to be honest. But digressing from all that, because that's really serious and that's a rabbit hole. And if you disagree with me, agree to disagree, to be quite honest. This is my stance. You're probably not going to say anything to make me go, oh, it's all right. You know, like it's, no, like it's, if a person says awful shit, yeah, I may say he said something that's awful. Just because people say awful shit doesn't mean that we can't call out something that's awful. Like, that just makes zero sense to me. Just because people will get concussions and have brain damage in boxing doesn't mean we shouldn't do stuff to curb it. Like that, like those concepts or those thoughts, like I don't understand the logic behind it if you're out there thinking that, just being honest. But digressing from all of that, let's get back to Showtime versus DAZN and all that beef.
I want smoke.
Yeah, you do, DAZN. We know you do. But quickly, I go check out TBV and their interview with Eddie Hearn, with Ness. That was just a phenomenal job. Eddie Hearn said a lot of stuff about HBO, Showtime, etc. That's very interesting that I'm going to delve into, that I'm not going to play the audio for, just so you know. And there's been several articles out there, several interviews out there that sort of echoed this about DAZN and the movements are happening. So I'm not going to show you all of that on YouTube and talk about them all in terms of sources, but just so you're aware, there's a ton of information out there about these networks and what's happening next. A lot of money being talked, a lot of figures being mentioned. Go peep those interviews. Go look at those articles. It is important as a fan. It would take me way too long to show you every piece of information, just being honest. With the time limit we have with callers, we just can't do that. But I will read this interesting piece about Joshua leaving Showtime versus DAZN. I think it's indicative of what is happening in the market. Business isn't about loyalty. Oh, hold on. Let me get my dramatic music. Yes. Business isn't about loyalty, but making the right decisions for your career, Joshua told CBS Sports. We're all working together. There's HBO, DAZN, there's Sky, there's all these other broadcasters. So it's not about I'm going to stay put because we are loyal. It's like being in an abusive relationship. Sorry, same character. You have to make moves for the better of your life. That's what I'm doing right now. Making moves for the better of my career. DAZN is a good channel to be part of, and I honestly believe that. But so is Showtime, and so is HBO and Sky Sports. They are all unbelievable broadcasters, and one day I may have a chance to box on HBO. Whoa, hold up. We got to address that. Let me read it very fast. The rest of it, because I haven't had that chance. There's no love lost. Blah blah blah. It's nothing but a bunch of bullshit. I love that it's HBO is now back. I guarantee you there's going to be tons of YouTube videos out there talking about how, Anthony Joshua wants to go to HBO, and kind of does. I mean, he mentioned HBO more than any other network in this interview, other than the Sky Sports, which he's contractually obligated to and has been on his entire career. And then behind those two is DAZN, which he's on right now. Bayside Boxing, yes, I was. Yes. I picked Edler Alvarez to beat Pulev, so I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, homie. But digressing, I think Anthony Joshua, and just in terms of these networks battling for each other, it's going to be interesting. Because, again, go check out the interview with Ness and Eddie Hearn in terms of just the idea that HBO is making a comeback. Eddie even mentioned that. Eddie referenced or implied that basically HBO is going to make a comeback in a big way, and was kind of mysterious about it. I don't know what to make of that. It's just interesting. I'm curious. And then also in that interview, Eddie alluding to rumors he's heard about Showtime running out of a boxing budget this year, which is odd to me because they're coming off the heels of obviously Mayweather-McGregor last year, which they obviously should have collected a bunch of money on to sort of soup up their budget for this year. Maybe they spent a lot of that, obviously, in the first half of this year. I mean, you have Eddie throwing out numbers that he has said in that same interview with Ness and TVV that Mikey Garcia is getting paid $3 million for these fights. Against Robert Easter, he reportedly got paid for the state, to the state, $1 million for his guaranteed purse. So that means he got paid $2 million on top of that. So God knows how much money Showtime is really throwing out there and what their budget really is, because it's not really, I think, known at this point. We don't even know what Top Rank's budget is with ESPN. You know, I've heard people in the industry mention $50 million and all the way up to $80 million. God knows. New York Times saying it's under $120 million, whatever that means. That's a very broad number. But just a lot of numbers and just overall just money being thrown around for these fighters is a good thing. It just fundamentally is. I think as fans in the long term, I think we're going to win out. I think streaming is going to be, no pun intended, streamlined. I do believe Showtime and HBO, even though it may be a longer process than in the next 12 months, the next 24 months, maybe it's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, but they aren't going to be the main driving forces of boxing going forward, in my opinion. I've said this before, I say it again. It's definitely going to be ESPN and DAZN, or maybe not DAZN, maybe a continuation of it, because I think Eddie Hearn is going to be a face for boxing going forward for a lot of figures. I just think so. He's throwing out way too much money for them not to sort of pick up better fighters, better overall names, because obviously we're going to get into the new card, the October 6th announced card and all of that, but definitely going to be interesting. Again, call in number 323-870-4051 and call in later. Rob, that is funny, though. I'll give you that. And speaking of TV deals and such, and again, picking back off of Showtime, shout out to Mookie Alexander for screenshotting Dan Raphael saying, basically, from what he's hearing, PBC and their deal with Fox is not done, obviously. The money is not great. It's good, but not great. To use exact words, he was asked, so if PBC locks up a deal with Fox to go along with the 20-plus dates of Showtime, blah, blah, he then answered, they don't have 20 dates with Showtime, less than that. One of the issues I'm told regarding the possible Fox deal is they want exclusivity, as in no PBC on Showtime. Will be interesting to see how it plays out. The numbers I hear also are nothing great relative to what Showtime spends with PBC in a given year. So again, piggybacking off the idea of Showtime and these sort of tectonic movements happening in the networks of boxing, them losing PBC is a drastic change that I think that they cannot deal with in the immediate term. Like, if this does fall through, where 2019 we get PBC on Fox and not Showtime, interesting. I know maybe you UK fans don't care about that, but I think for us boxing fans in the US, that's probably a net positive, at least from a consumer standpoint. It goes from a premium network cable to basic cable. It goes from 23 or 24 million homes in the U.S. to 200 million homes in the U.S. You know? Jonathan Fitch saying both the UFC and Matchroom clash time-wise. Remember, UFC is not going to be on Fox in 2019. So it won't matter. I mean, maybe. I mean, boxing and MMA clash all the time for Saturdays. So probably. If the Matchroom cards are the USA cards in primetime, yeah, definitely. But different networks, so it won't be on the same network. But yeah, just again going forward, pay attention to this PBC movement. You know, if they jettison from Showtime that 5, 10, 15 year timeline I'm talking about for DAZN, ESPN, and their sort of a dominance in the industry, that is rapidly increased. I mean, drastically. But let's get to that DAZN card on October 6th, which definitely is not the greatest, to put it lightly. But Jared Miller versus Thomas Adamek, Jesse Vargas versus Thomas Delorme, and Artabebe versus Callum Johnson. The Callum Johnson-Artabebe fight, I think, was already announced. Look, I know, like Rob saying, like, Granados was the target but turned it down. Like, that wouldn't even have been that great, to be quite honest. And I know that their sticking point is that we have all these title fights. Daniel Roman will be on the card against Gavin McDonald as well. I believe I've been hearing that the Cindy Serrano, Katie Taylor fight's been moved to the October 20th card, which we'll get to later. So I don't know if that one's officially moved or not. Maybe Rob can let me know in the chat. But it's a shit card. Like, it's not good. Like, it's when you compare it to, let's say, PBC, because again I think PBC is the ultimate comparison, and everyone's comparing it. Eddie Hearn has been comparing it basically as well to PBC. They came out with their cards. It was like Adrian Vroner, Keith Thurman, Amir Khan triple headers on like NBC. It's just insane. Like the difference I think in caliber from what PBC first put out, and obviously the vitriol they got, and then the DAZN, and they're putting out their product. And obviously, I think the response it should be getting for this card. Now, the October 20th card, which we're going to get to, I think is much better, especially if they move that Katie Taylor fight to it. We're going to get to that. But this October 6th card, as their sort of rollout of Matchroom USA for DAZN, not the great. It just isn't. It's not good. Vargas Delorme is uninteresting. Like, I think it's a respectable matchup, to be honest, but I think it's just no one cares about that fight. Like, people barely care about Jesse Vargas, and people really have never cared about Thomas Delorme. People shit on him in Terrence Crawford's resume when we talk about Terrence Crawford, so this is just ridiculous. Jared Miller versus Thomas Adamek. Oh, my God, this is just so bad. And, again, this is just a step back for Joe Miller. And I know Eddie Hearn's reason was Thomas Adamek is ranked higher, but come on, fam. Like, are we really going through this dog and pony show? It's not good. Like, it just, all these fights are mismatches in some capacity. I think the Daniel Roman Gavin McDonald fight, while interesting in some way, is not a card that you roll out an entire network basically on. I know Anthony Joshua Povetkin is technically the first Matchroom card for DAZN. But again, for us U.S. fans, that doesn't matter for us. We were thinking about Matchroom USA, obviously, because that's the big move, right? That's the big change in the industry is Matchroom USA with DAZN in the U.S. This isn't it. This is not the rollout. Let's be honest. The boxing is saying Eddie should try to make Hooker versus Granado, especially with Granado saying he wants to be at 140. I think that's a fun matchup. But again, you know, and Eddie, I think, kind of alluded to this in the interview with Ness, is that, like, hopefully these guys go and tell their boxing friends who are bigger stars, hey, I'm being treated right over here. And he gets the Dannys, the Mikeys, the Earls, the Charlos. You know, like, that's what you're sort of hoping for here. But yes, first Matchroom USA, DAZN card, not the greatest. Not the greatest at all. And I think that the big sticking point, I think, for a lot of people is the Jared Miller versus Adamek fight. Let alone the Vargas Delorme, that being the main event, because I think that is ridiculous in and of itself, and that's just laughable compared to the main events, let's say, PBC put on, which were championship fights. They put in the championship fights in the the undercard for this one. That's because their champions aren't big names. There aren't people that can pull numbers. PBC were able to do that. It was Danny Garcia versus Robert Guerrero. It was Keith Thurman versus Robert Guerrero. Rampage fan saying those guys would not leave Heyman. They don't have to leave Heyman. If you notice, Rampage fan, go peep out that interview with Ness and Eddie, because I've been saying it a lot. It's a great interview. Eddie's tone about Al Heyman has shifted drastically, in my opinion. I think they hit a rough patch, to be honest, in their relationship. I think they were not getting along that great, probably business-wise. But the way Eddie talks about Al right now, it seems like, especially with the AJ and Wilder negotiation being, I think, a personification of Heyman and Eddie and their beef, in a sense, Eddie is saying that Heyman's on his side trying to get it done. And if that's true, or at least in theory, if they are getting along, then I believe the idea that Heyman can't work with Eddie, I think that's ridiculous. I think Heyman works with promoters. Eddie's a promoter. You can work with them. Go collect the biggest bag. If it's not Showtime, maybe it's DAZN. Go collect the biggest bag. I'm always for fighters getting the biggest check they can. Especially if it's one-offs, which especially that's what it kind of sounds like Eddie wants to do. A lot of one-offs. Similar to, let's say, obviously, Heyman doing time buys with all these different networks. He's sort of the reverse. He's the network trying to pay license fees for all these fights and pick them up. And he's sort of working as the face of DAZN. So I think, I don't think these fighters need to leave Heyman to go to DAZN, or at least to make fights with these fighters. Make the best fights, let's be honest. The boxing is saying no disrespect, but Vargas isn't a world beater. Delorme is a good fight for him. No, that's why I think I prefaced it with Vargas Delorme is actually a competitive fight. Probably the best word is competitive. But in no way, shape, or form is it interesting. And in no way, shape, or form should be the main event to your rollout debut U.S. card on a debut network. Like, that just isn't good. Ellie saying, look, first card isn't great, but if you look at the month as a whole, it should be okay. Look, I'm getting DAZN. They got World Boxing Super Series. They got Bellator. They have me sold. I am good. But this card is not good. Objectively, this card is not a good card in any way, shape, or form. There might be good highlights here and there, but it's not a good card. Let's be honest. And just because the month is good doesn't mean that it makes this card better. That's not what we're talking about here. There's no magic where, because Bellator and World Boxing Super Series are popping off that month, makes this card all of a sudden, boom, be amazing. And the Billy Joe Saunders, Demetrius Andrade fight on October 20th, that all of a sudden, boom, makes this amazing. No, that just doesn't happen here. This card just is objectively a bad card. There is, like, even the Better Beef Callum Johnson fight is not a good fight. Rampage fan saying, I like you, Rampage fan, saying they need to bring K1 to DAZN. That'd be awesome. Or Glory. I'd be down with Glory. Which reminds me, Kyle, I know Kyle may be listening somewhere. When's Glory this weekend? Let me know. And what network it's on. I forget. But let's move on to some more news, which I was talking about. Demetrius Andrade versus, or I should say, Billy Joe Saunders versus Demetrius Andrade headed to Boston's TD Garden on October 20th. Fantastic, I think, placement for this fight. I think even though it's obviously not the hometown, I know they were kind of shooting for that. This is a bigger market. It's close by to the hometown of Demetrius Andrade. It's within driving distance, obviously. If you're not familiar with that area, just to let you know, it's within driving distance. I think this is phenomenal. This is a smart idea. Plus, Billy Joe Saunders, I believe I know obviously he's a traveler, but I believe he's Welsh. And I think the Irish and Welsh population, that whole conglomerate in Boston will obviously, I think, show out for Billy Joe Saunders. I think Andrade will have his fans there. Plus, I think Boston's a underrated fight town. So I'm hyped on this. I think it's good. And plus, I know who said it. Bayside Boxing saying Billy Joe Saunders versus Andrade equals Billy Joe Saunders versus William Monroe Jr. too. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. It may, I think it's quite possible that Saunders Andrade is obviously not going to be fight of the year. I think we sort of know that. Both guys don't have the highest work rate. Both guys are sort of counterpunchers. I believe both are southpaws. This shouldn't be the most exciting fight. Plus, neither guy is the most exciting fighter. But stylistically, it's a fun boxing match as a hardcore, as a purist, to see who sort of wins out on this. Will the footwork of Billy Joe Saunders just be too much for Andrade? Will Andrade be able to cut off at certain angles and be able to catch him? There's some interest here. And I think it's a competitive, fun fight in this division. And plus, we finally get to see what Andrade is really worth, I think. If Andrade comes out here and beats Billy Joe Saunders, I think he is an instant player in this division in a lot of ways. So I love this fight, love this matchup, love the venue. I think they knocked it out of the park here, to be quite honest. Keeping it with UK fights, Kubrat Pulev versus Harry Fury set down for October 27th in Sofia, Bulgaria. Allegedly, this is coming by way, I believe, of Kubrat Pulev's social media, and then I think everyone's kind of running with it. But let's be honest, it's Pulev. Who knows? The Bayside Boxing, man, hating on Eddie in all things UK. Saying Boston during MLB playoffs, NBA, and NFL season is risky. The arena could be empty. I don't think the arena is going to be filled out. They're not going to fill 20,000 plus seats in this arena. Let's be honest. But if it does 12, it's a success. I think it does very well if it does 12,000, 13,000. That's a respectable number. Though TD Garden might be smaller overall because it is an older stadium. I wonder what the maximum capacity is. I bet somebody knows here. Let me know. But yeah, I Harry Fury, Kubrat Pulev, love that fight. One of those that's sort of like Andrade and Billy Joe Saunders, where it may not equal the most exciting fight, but from a style standpoint, from a boxing purist standpoint, it'd be interesting to see who wins out in that one. And plus, obviously, a step up for Harry Fury, who has not really done much since the Joseph Parker controversial loss, which I thought he arguably won. And to change, or I should say, to end with some UK news. Lewis Ritson, Dave Allen, Davies, and Buatsi heading to October 13th in Newcastle. Hopefully we get it on DAZN. I believe we will. Kyle coming in with the comment from Glory saying Glory is on tonight, ESPN 2, 11 p.m. CDT and 10 p.m. Mountain Time, which I believe is 9 p.m. Pacific Time, I want to say. I don't know. I could be wrong. Definitely going to watch Glory tonight. Thank you for that, Kyle. Especially since there's nothing on right now for fights. It's a dead period. Dead couple weeks coming up. Even though we have the Jojo Diaz, Jesus Rojas fight, which I'll get into right now. I'll get into that right now. Joseph Diaz should win that. Jesus Rojas is a fun matchup. He's a fun fighter, but he's such a slow starter. Doesn't really have that knockout power. Joseph Diaz should win this quite handily, and I think you're going to see him sort of beat up on Jesus Rojas as the fight goes on. Possible late TKO finish. That fight will be live streamed on Facebook. There's a couple fighters on that I want to mention because I believe friend of the show, Damon Allen Jr. is on the card. Let me pull up the bout list right now. Yes, Damon Allen Jr. versus Jonathan Navarro. That's a fun fight at junior welterweight. Ferdinand Caraban, who beat a good friend of mine and one of my, not training partners, but a guy I train with occasionally. Undefeated fighter from Eastern Europe. Heavy hand. You know the style. Fun fighter. And Aaron McKenna on the card. I like that. That should be a fun little event there on Facebook. And plus, again, more streaming. Ryan Allen saying, Matt, what's your thoughts on Eddie Hearn? Like, just in general? He's a perfectly fine promoter, probably one of the better promoters in the game in terms of being able to be a salesman. Like, he's a good salesman. That's about it. But digressing to World Boxing Super Series, DAZN, shit like that. Zolan Tete demanding random testing in World Boxing Super Series. Absolutely agree with this and echo this. If this is now the industry standard that we're setting on people, where we judge people like Canelo and et cetera for, obviously being in random testing and testing once and positive for once, where are we judging people that don't test at all, that have no drug testing at all? And God knows what sanctioning bodies or regulatory bodies, I should say, over in Russia, Ukraine, Eastern Europe, etc., are actually drug testing these fighters. Let's be completely honest here. So Tete, I think, bring a quite a good point here about how we can sort of fix that regulatory hole in World Boxing Super Series. I'll get to that boxing idiot. Don't worry. Some good news again. Sort of talking about regulation. By way of Mike Baca at UCN Live saying, after the fight tonight, the California State Athletic Commission announced a multi-million-dollar pension fund for former fighters. By the way, it is only boxers, not MMA fighters, just for those who want to know. Then handed over a $15,000 plus check for a long retired gentleman with no more than 17 fights. They ask all former fighters in California to call 916-263-2195. Definitely do that. And just to read sort of what it does, or what it is, to be eligible or entitled to the money, you have to be at least 50 years old, fought in at least 10 rounds a year for 4 years in California with no more than a 3-year break, fought in at least 75 scheduled professional rounds in California with no more than a 3-year break. This was started in 1982, throwback, and now the funds total to be $5.3 million. So fighters, please, if you're in California, if you fill out this criteria, call that number. Let me say it again, just for those that any fighters out there. 916-263-2195. Amazing stuff from California. We're going to talk about California later on in MMA because they are just doing a fantastic job with regulation and innovating the sport, I think, and pushing the sport into a better place, I would say. This is good. Fighters should be getting pensions. Absolutely. And maybe, we can haggle about what the metric is and what the criteria should be, but there should be a pension. Absolutely. But salute to them. And speaking of sanctioning bodies, regulatory bodies, etc., all that fun stuff. Let me get to it right here. Where is it? There it is. I'm talking about the WBA, sanctioning bodies, regulatory bodies. BJ Flores versus Trevor Bryan will now have a WBA interim belt at stake. Get hyped. Get hyped. Yes. God, that is just... That's laughable. I really have nothing to say about that. The WBA is a complete joke, and it is what it is. Terrence Crawford sending some smoke over to Danny Swift Garcia.
I want smoke!
Saying, yo, at Danny Swift, look, you didn't do what I did at 140. I was undisputed, something you was never. Fought the guy you were scared to fight, came up to welterweight in my first fight, fought a champion. I didn't need no tune-up fight or get handed a belt. And to be honest, he kind of went more and more after this, but it wasn't in a thread, so I would have to get every tweet. I just didn't do that. But go check out Terrence Crawford's Twitter account. It's hilarious. Good shit there. And speaking of Twitter and transitioning over to MMA, because we do have to sort of hurry, It has been a long show. I do want to get to callers again. Call in number 323-870-4051. But saying Tito Dillashaw saying, you wish. Oh, hold on. Whoa, sorry. Tito Dillashaw and Gervonta Davis went back and forth on social media. I will read a lot of these, though, because they were fun. And I think I talked about this a little bit on Tuesday, so this is picking up on it. But Gervonta Davis talking to Tito Dillashaw on Twitter saying, is this really you tweeting? Or it's your ho John that tweet for you in Loma? Oh, shit. What? Whoa. Damn. Crossing lines there.
I want smoke.
And then TJ comes back saying, you wish it was someone else tweeting for me because you know you just put your foot in your mouth. Then Below the Belt with Brendan Shaw put out this little infographic saying Octagon or Ring with TJ Dillashaw and Gervonta Davis. TJ saying, if you dare step in the ring. Okay, I can't even read this. This is so bad. This should not be happening at all. Gervonta Davis saying, like, let's make it happen, pussy. Like, no. Like, let's not make it happen at all, please. This is the fight we want. Ten Farmer saying, I'm ready to defend my belt, and you saying, I'm ready to take it. Let's make it happen. That is the fight. That is the only fight I want to see from Gervonta Davis in, the next 6 months? I don't want to see TJ Dillashaw. Nope, I am good with that. But now transitioning fully into MMA because interesting news out of PFL, Professional Fighters League, which is kind of like a third or fourth rate MMA promotion if you guys don't know, tournament-based structure. But they've now got $28 million from investors, including Kevin Hart, Mark Burnett, and Tony Robbins. I guess. I mean, I hope the fighters get a big chunk of that. I don't think they will, but with sort of the question marks around PFL, that hopefully I bring Anthony on, not later on the show, but maybe later in the week or next week to sort of talk about this more. But man, a lot of money, and shout out to Kevin Hart for getting into this side of it. And talking maybe about shady shit with the PFL, but more to the UFC now. By way of Lucas Middlebrook, and again, go check out my interview with Lucas Middlebrook, which I did a long time ago. It's in the interview playlist on our YouTube page. Great interview about just how we would unionize the sport. But this insane deposition coming out from the UFC. And let me read it right here because it's pretty fucking hilarious. Dramatic music time. The subject contracts between Zuffa and Hunt. Oh, by the way, this is between Mark Hunt, a UFC fighter, and Zuffa LLC, the parent company of UFC, and them suing each other, basically. The subject contract between Zuffa and Hunt contains proprietary information such as the number of bouts agreed to by the parties, the compensation to be paid for those bouts, the lengths of the agreement, and a variety of other provisions. These provisions are unique from a fighter to fighter such that the public disclosure of this information would harm Zuffa relationships with the hundreds of fighters it has under contract by inhibiting the company's ability to negotiate with any given fighter as he or she may desire to be paid based on apples to oranges comparison of what others have received as opposed to the unique facts applicable to that fighter. I have personally experienced fighters holding out or refusing to accept contract offers based on the perception that he or she should receive the same deal as another fighter regardless of differences in experience, skill level, fight records, marketability, etc. If this situation were multiplied across the hundreds of fighters needed to successfully run Zuffa's business through the public disclosure of individual fighter contracts, the contract negotiation process would become unmanageable. Oh, wow. So basically, for all those that don't understand that legalese there, the UFC does not want fighters to know what other fighters are making because it would make those fighters want to be paid more. That is their defense. their defense of fighters not getting paid more is how we don't want fighters to know what they're getting paid or what others are getting paid, because then they would want to get paid more. The reason why athletes in other sports can get a good contract and there's such things as league minimums, etc., you sort of can know where you place, it's because all the contracts are disclosed publicly. So their defense of this whole sort of lawsuit, in a way, in at least in this part of it, is actually can be used against them. And it's so fucking hilarious how they do not see that I don't even know where to go with this. Shout out to Eric McCracken. He posted on combatlaw.com. Go check it out. He sort of broke this down. He's a combat sports lawyer up there in Canada. But yeah, fucking hilarious. Just their reasoning behind this. But digressing from that, because I do want to hurry to callers. Again, calling number 323-870-4051. Speaking of California and regulatory innovations, they're starting to sort of have this weight management program where if you come in on fight night 10% over your contracted weight, they will recommend that you move up a weight class. Out of the 24 fighters on the card for UFC 227, all but 6. So 18 fighters came in over that 10%. 18. That is, I believe, a 75% fail ratio for this. And again, just a further indictment of the extreme weight cutting just culture we have in this sport and how dangerous it is. I'm going to get to how dangerous it can fucking be. So now their sort of effect to this, or their executive control over it, is little to nothing. What they do now is recommend to the fighters, obviously, that they should move up a weight class, but they can't enforce that. There's nothing giving them that power at this point, I believe. But it's something. It's something of, at least, we are knowing. We're knowing more information. More information is never a bad thing. And more statistics, more data, and we need that. Let me get to actually something. Because of weight cutting, I'm going to skip a couple topics and go to this one and then come back to some other ones I missed. But MMA fighter Alexandra Pereira Silva out of a coma after weight cut gone wrong. Recovery being called a miracle. Fighters, please do not cut so much weight. It is more dangerous to you and to the sport than PED use and a plethora of other cheating. Weight cutting is a insane danger that you guys are conducting yourselves under. So please do not do this. I don't want to read news like this. I really don't. This is upsetting to me. So yeah, I just, again, wanted to sort of piece those two news together. A lot of fighters are cutting too much weight. To use that, very small sample size, 75% of fighters are cutting too much weight. Then their body should probably sustain long term. Is what it is. I was going to talk about Darren Till and his controversial quotes and all that shit. Because what he said was fucking stupid and just bad. Like him basically saying, I don't care about my kids. I don't care about my wife. I'm just here to get a belt. And he sort of was walking back on this and saying people shouldn't be offended. Look, what you said was just stupid. And it objectively was not a smart thing to say. And it's kind of a dipshit dick thing to say. So you can tell us that, hey, stop being offended. But again, you said, I don't care about my kids. I don't care about my girlfriend. Those are just objectively not morally right things to say. I'm not really that offended by it. I just kind of think of you as a dick now, in a way. Is what it is. I think you're still a great fighter, but, I mean, People that aren't dicks don't say shit like that. People that aren't, assholes don't say shit like that. That just makes no sense. Last piece of news that we're going to get to. Diego Sanchez to fight Craig White at UFC 228. Diego Sanchez, please. For the love of God, retire. Please. It is horrendous. But that is it for the news of the day, or the few days, ladies and gentlemen. You know what that means. We're heading over to callers. And first caller up, I believe, is Santiago. Yes, it is. Santiago. Hello. Are you there?
Hey, buddy. Nice to be the first call for your inaugural day of having calls. I'm just here working, taking some people to some places, and I just wanted to listen to the show through the phone for once.
So no questions, no ideas on the topics. You're good. You just wanted to come and say hi.
Well, no, I mean, obviously I'm a little disappointed in the DAZN card. Obviously I expected better. All of us had those expectations placed when this PBC card first came out with Thurman Guerrero. So obviously a lot of us expected better than this. So hopefully, this card is just a first bad start, but they have a good strong start afterwards. Obviously, I'm a little tired of the whole love triangle between the heavyweights, Fury, Wilder, and Joshua. And at this point, really, I'm just waiting for them to say that after Tyson Fury beats Francisco Pianta, that Wilder gets in the ring and they announce the fight, and we get the trash talking we expected to get a couple years ago. Really, Obviously, I really don't have much to say regarding the MMA topics, but if you have any questions regarding anything that you have talked about, feel free to shoot. Otherwise, that's my call.
Thank you, Santiago. Glad that you're the inaugural caller of MCR. It's kind of fitting, actually. Shout out to Robbie Hearn, who wanted to be that. He's not. Compa, I see you in there on the list, but you haven't pressed 1. By the way, 323-870-4051. Call in right now. Press 1 to get in the line in the queue. Compa, you have not pressed 1, so I'm not going to go to you just in case. I know you're a busy man there, out there in LA, hustling in the streets. But first-time callers, not a lot. It happens. So we're going to head on out of here. Yes. So thank you, everyone in the chat. Jonathan Fitch, Boxing Idiot, Matthew Valentine, Bayside Boxing, Kyle, Ellie, Eric Rosas, Rampage Fan, Ryan Island, a lot of people. Shout out to all of you guys from the chat. Rubisky, Rick Fulton, Nija, everyone. Glad you guys enjoyed the show. Glad you guys are here. Be back, obviously, not tomorrow. I don't know if we're going to do live fight chat. We might do a live fight chat tomorrow. I will not confirm it today. But I will be... I believe that's Kyle in the queue. Kyle, I think that's you in the queue. I'm going to go to you, Kyle, because you're jumping in here last minute. Kyle, is this you?
Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hey, what's going on, Matt?
What's up, Kyle? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Congratulations on the new equipment and the new studio and whatnot.
I appreciate it, man. What's your thoughts on everything? What's your thoughts on the Glory card tonight?
It's not too much to get excited about. I just want to actually clarify on that for fans. The main card is on ESPN2, but every Glory card has what's called a Super Fight Series, and those are always on the UFC Fight Pass. It's all on the same show, but you unfortunately have to be a Fight Pass subscriber in order to see the Super Fight Series.
And is that before or after?
So I just wanted to clear that up.
Is that before or after the ESPN card, or the ESPN portion of it?
It's before.
Right.
Essentially, the Super Fight Series is the undercard.
Okay.
But they usually spice up the main event because it's on the Fight Pass, whatever. And yeah, it's actually a pretty good main event. It's Jason Wilness fighting Marcus Simon. And it's actually the 4th time they've ever fought, so it should be interesting.
Can't wait. Any thoughts on the news of the day? Any thoughts on Joshua Wilder, Fury, PFL, DAZN?
One thing I want to say is I'm glad Diego Sanchez is fighting Craig White instead of Maribek Taisimov, who I originally heard he was going to fight a while back. Am I saying that right? Maribek Taisimov?
I think you're saying it right. Yeah, I think you are.
Yeah, I think that would have been terrible for Diego.
I think fighting period is terrible for Diego at this point, but I agree that Craig White's a much easier opponent than Maribek, easily.
Yeah, and then other than that, it's too bad that the DAZN Chicago card sucks. I was kind of trying. I'm in Chicago, so I was trying to check that out. But shout outs to Jarrell Miller, former kickboxer.
Well, you might find some cheap tickets. Like, knowing that event is what it is, like I assume the ticket prices are going to be priced accordingly. So you might find a cheap ticket. And you might...
Yeah, but it's going to be the same night as Khabib and Conor.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Not worth it. Not worth it.
Yeah, so no, can't do it.
Was that it, Kyle?
Well, anyways, man. Yeah, man, that's all I got, man. Congratulations again, and hopefully I'll be talking to you again soon.
Yes, that's true, man.
Shout-outs to the MCR family.
Shout-outs to the MCR family, man. Get your equipment right, man. Can't wait to have you on the show as a host. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is officially it. Thank you to everyone. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, all that fun shit, and be back hopefully tomorrow. If not, Sunday, championship rounds, Patreon-only podcast. Patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. Help support the channel and get that extra Sunday podcast for as low as $1 a month. You can't get a price like that. Come on. But yes, everyone have a good day. Peace.